At first glance, it sounds outrageous, even offensive. But before you dismiss him as just another power-hungry misogynist, take a deeper look. This wasn't just a statement of biology. It was a window into how a man consumed by greatness sees the world. Because the truth is, greatness has a cost, a heavy one. Men like Napoleon, men of ambition, of strategy, of vision, are not present. They're not available. They don't sit still. They don't offer daily comfort or predictable affection. They are possessed by their mission, their war, their future. And in that burning pursuit, something has to give. Napoleon understood this not just as a ruler, but as a man in love. His letters to Josephine weren't cold military reports. They were raw, passionate, pleading, sometimes even desperate. But while he was out conquering empires, she was back home, with other lovers, and that broke something in him. He realized something many men still haven't. Not all women are drawn to greatness. In fact, many are repelled by it, because greatness doesn't bend, it doesn't pause, it doesn't offer safety or stability. Greatness is wild, untamed, demanding, and for many women, that's not love, that's a threat. So they don't reach for the man on fire. They reach for the one they can hold, the manageable one, the one who stays, the mediocre one. See, a mediocre man doesn't challenge her. He doesn't disappear into a vision or sacrifice today for something 10 years away. He's present. He's soft. His world revolves around her, not around a mission. And that makes him desirable. Not for what he is, but for what he isn't. He isn't dangerous. He isn't obsessed. He doesn't threaten to leave. He asks no deep questions, fights no real battles, and risks no legacy. Napoleon saw this pattern over and over, and that's why he said what he said, not from hate, but from brutal calculation. He reduced women to function. Because in his experience, most did not rise beyond it. They didn't want to understand the fire inside a man who refused to live small. He stopped writing for love. He started writing for truth. And the truth is this: the more a man rises, the more alone he becomes. Not because he chooses solitude, but because most people, especially in relationships, can't keep up with the weight of vision. Look at our world today. We claim to worship excellence. We praise ambition. We put hustle culture on t-shirts. But the moment a man becomes too focused, too distant, too intense, suddenly he's emotionally unavailable. Why? Because real power doesn't seduce the heart the way predictability does. Real power isn't cute. It's terrifying. Women say they want confidence, ambition, drive. But when a man truly embodies those things, he stops being a boyfriend and becomes a mirror. And mirrors are uncomfortable because they reflect everything you're not. Napoleon learned this the hard way. He was a master of war, a god of momentum, but even he found himself reduced to begging in love letters, and she still betrayed him. Why? Because love doesn't always choose greatness. It chooses safety. Even now, men are being told, become more, level up, be successful, then she'll love you. But that's a lie. Because the more exceptional you become, the more inconvenient you are to someone who just wants peace. And so, women often unconsciously reach for the man they can mold. The one who listens when she cries, who stays when she doubts, who stops everything the moment she feels uneasy. That man, he doesn't scare her, but she will never admire him. She might love him, she might marry him, but deep down, she knows he isn't a king. He's a servant who looks like one. Meanwhile, the man who won't kneel, the man who burns at 2 a.m., building something no one else understands, he gets rejected, not for being wrong, but for being too much. His silence is read as distance. His ambition is arrogance. His discipline is coldness, but he's not cold, he's focused, and that makes him dangerous. And the world still bows to danger. This is what Napoleon understood, not from theory, but from pain. He wasn't just building an empire. He was battling the reality that love, as most people experience it, is built on emotional exchange, not vision, not sacrifice, not transcendence. And when you're a man chasing something immortal, love begins to feel like a trap. It expects you to slow down, to come home, to whisper sweet nothings, to be gentle when your soul is on fire. But greatness doesn't do gentle, it does truth. It does pressure. It does obsession. So what happens? He starts to lose her not because he did something wrong, but because he refused to become small. And this is what breaks most ambitious men. They finally realize that their excellence is not only unappreciated, it's punished. Their discipline is met with distance, their purpose with complaints, their silence with suspicion. They gave everything, their time, their mind, their sanity. And when they look beside them, she's gone. Why? Because greatness is lonely. And not just lonely in the poetic sense. Lonely in the real, gut-wrenching way. Lonely in the you're too much for me way. Lonely in the can you just be normal tonight way. Napoleon didn't hate women. He just stopped believing they could follow him into the fire. He tried, he begged, he failed. Not because he was broken, but because the path he chose, the path of war, legacy, impact, isn't compatible with modern relationship ideals. Those ideals demand availability, softness, emotional priority, and the great man can't offer those things. Not consistently, because his love isn't soft, it's hard, it's brutal, it's relentless. Not because he doesn't feel, but because he doesn't pause, he doesn't orbit, he ascends. And in doing so, he stops being a partner and becomes a force. Let's be clear, most women don't want to walk beside a force. They want to walk beside someone who makes them feel something predictable, someone who centers them. And that's not evil, it's just incompatible. So the man who chooses mission over marriage, discipline over domesticity, he must also choose loneliness. That's the brutal, ancient trade-off. Power or peace? Rarely both. And when the modern man tries to have both, he usually ends up with neither. He waters down his ambition to please her, and loses the fire. Or he keeps the fire and watches her walk away. It's not personal. It's structural. Because society isn't built to support men like him. It tolerates them when they entertain. It praises them when they win. But the moment they stop performing and start becoming, the world calls them toxic. Too cold. Too driven. Too distant. Of course he's distant. He's thinking 20 years ahead. He's not unavailable. He's unavailable to nonsense. But the world doesn't like that. Because you can't control a man like that. You can't domesticate him. And so he becomes a villain. The emotionally absent boyfriend. The selfish husband. The arrogant leader. But deep down, everyone knows that's the kind of man who builds civilizations. Not the soft clay molded by moods and tears. Not the man who pauses his destiny for comfort. The one who doesn't stop. Who doesn't ask permission. Who doesn't kneel. He's the man history remembers, even if no one loves him for it. So the question is, do you want to be loved, or do you want to be remembered? Because the men who are remembered, truly remembered, don't have warm love stories. They have legends. And legends are written in blood, sacrifice, and solitude. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because many men today still believe that if they just become more and more successful, more disciplined, more valuable, they'll finally be loved the way they imagine. But Napoleon would have laughed at that. He knew better, because the higher a man climbs, the more threatening he becomes, especially to those who say they want him. That's the paradox. A man becomes more, and he's loved less. Not for his flaws, but for his fire. Because the fire demands something in return. It demands that those around him rise too. And most people, including most women, don't want to rise. They want to rest. They say they want a king, but they choose a servant in disguise. A man who looks the part but bends easily. A man who listens, submits, accommodates, not because he's kind, but because he has no mission greater than her. She becomes his purpose. And while that may sound romantic, it's not leadership. It's orbiting. And no one truly respects what orbits them. They enjoy it. They use it. They keep it close, but they don't follow it. And that's the final blow to the modern man. He thinks he's doing the right thing, being present, being available, being agreeable. But slowly, without realizing, he becomes forgettable. He gets affection. He gets routine. He gets nice guy praise. But he doesn't get devotion. He doesn't get reverence. He doesn't get followed into the storm. Because deep down, she knows he didn't choose mission. He chose her. And while she wanted that at first, eventually, she can't admire it. Because true admiration requires sacrifice. And what did he sacrifice? His edge, his fire, his future. Meanwhile, the man who doesn't bend, the one who keeps building, keeps rising, keeps going no matter who stays or leaves, he becomes unlovable to many. Not because he's wrong, but because he's free. You can't own a man who's on a mission. You can't seduce him with comfort. You can't shame him into settling. And that's terrifying not just for women, but for everyone. Because a man who needs nothing is a mirror. A mirror that reflects all the needs, fears, and dependencies that others carry. And most people can't stand that reflection, so they call him cold, arrogant, emotionally unavailable. But he's not. He just refuses to pretend. He refuses to slow down for the sake of appearances. He refuses to turn his fire into a campfire, soft, warm, and safe. He is a wildfire, uncontainable, unpredictable, untouchable. And yes, that comes with a price. He may never be truly loved. He may never be understood. But he'll be remembered. Not for being agreeable. Not for being comforting. But for being unstoppable. So if you are that man, if you feel the pull of something higher, something eternal, stop apologizing for it. Stop trying to explain yourself to people who can't see what you're building. Stop waiting for the kind of love that asks you to shrink. Because you were never rejected for your flaws. You were rejected for your intensity, for your discipline, for the way you made others feel about themselves. And that's not your burden. That's your power. So don't envy the man who is loved easily. Pity him. Because though he may be adored, he will never be followed, never be feared, never be remembered as the one who led. He will be liked. He will be chosen. But he will never be legendary. And as for you, you will bleed. You will ache. You will walk alone. But you will walk into history. Not because it was easy, but because you didn't flinch when it got hard. So let her go. Let the crowd go. Let comfort go. You are not built for approval. You are built for impact. And the world, even if it does not love you, will never forget your name. Because in the end, no woman builds statues. No woman writes history books. No woman crowns kings. Men do. Men who suffer. Men who sacrifice. Men who stay the course. And those men, they don't ask to be loved. They ask to be feared, respected, followed. So if this video burned through your illusions, if it stripped away the lies you've been told about success, love, and what it costs to live with purpose, then don't walk away quietly. Like, share, subscribe, Support this channel by becoming a member, because truth, like greatness, isn't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to wake you up, set fire to your soul, and remind you you were never meant to be soft. You were meant to be dangerous. And the world still bows to danger. Cheers.